Coffee Pot Conversations.
Bonjour et bienvenue to Coffee Pot Conversations, the podcast that gives you something a little bit different of Paris. My name is Paul, and I'm here to help you experience the city like a visitor, not a tourist. So, grab yourself a coffee, settle in, let's discover Paris together.
Coming up on Coffee Pot Conversations.
Yep, this is Coffee Pot Conversations, hosted by an Englishman in Paris. This is episode 3.6, a November overnight stay in Paris. Yep, it's the continuing saga of my overnight stay in Paris in November. It's November 28th, 2024. So, the main video, for those of you watching on Spotify and YouTube, is me just continuing my walk down the Champs-Elysees. So what's happening? Firstly, hello Frankie, friend of the show, the original friend of the show. Welcome back. It's amazing when you get a screenshot from a beloved follower showing that she's listening. So thank you, Frankie. Don't forget, guys, if you want to, I can't believe I said guys, but don't forget, if you want to leave a message or get in contact with me, you can do that. Podcast at anenglishmaninparis.blog. That's a call to action really early, wasn't it? Blimey. So what has been happening since last time we spoke? Well, let's start with what we're going to be watching. So we are going to be going from the hotel. Well, we're going to finish off from the night before into the morning after, which sounds a lot worse than it actually is. We're going to take a little walk around Père Lachaise Cemetery up to Abelard and Eloise. I will be talking about when that's going to happen. I'll put a timestamp in so you will know when to start, when to stop, if you don't feel comfortable being in a cemetery whilst I am filming. Okay, so that's my my trigger warning for this episode. Anyway, back to what has been happening in the world since we spoke. What's been happening is I went to the Ideal Home exhibition in Olympia, Kensington, with my boys, Rory and Jasper. And we were there. It wasn't a podcast day by any stretch. We just walked around and we had a look, planned our Ideal Home. And on the way back, it got me thinking. I love spending time with my boys. But I was thinking, I'm at that age, I'm 49 at the moment. I'm at that age where I go on the tube, the London Underground. It could even be the Paris Metro when I do. And sometimes I'm worn out. And I get a little bit upset by the fact that I'm not being offered a seat. I think, you know. But then on the back foot, I go, well, actually, I'm quite pleased that I'm not being offered a seat because it shows that I'm not of that age where people feel that they should be offering me. Although I kind of feel that I'm at that age at times. Maybe I just don't look it. Must have been a haircut. That's been my week, really. Nev's in Paris without me. I went twice last month, so that's cool. She's there with family and friends, just having a quick little 4-day expedition. She's gone to the Musée d'Orsay, and that's it. So, yeah, great. No, it's great. I'm glad that she's comfortable and confident enough to tackle Paris without me. It shows that I've done my job. Also, much similar, Frankie's off next month, being April, and she's asked me for some help and some guidance. I love this sort of stuff, I really do. So if anybody wants to look at me and have a call for action, a call to action. So if anybody wants help or advice or assistance, email me in help@anenglishmaninparis.blog. Or if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment. That would be pretty cool. Leave a comment saying I'm looking at doing whatever you're doing, whenever you're thinking of going. And then myself or other people can come along and give little recommendations, create a little bit of community. We all know that's what I'm after, community engagement. But enough about what I want. Let's look at what people of France want. In particular, the people in the 16th at the Porte de Versailles, where we have the WBC. WBC, Paul, what on earth is that? Well, glad you asked. It's the World Butchers Challenge. It's the perfect opportunity for professionals and amateurs to discover, learn and share the art of butchery. So you can book a spot to attend the competition and you can immerse yourself in a unique atmosphere whilst meeting talented individuals from 18 different countries. So, yeah, I guess it's like the Ideal Home exhibition, but for butchery, maybe. It's at the Porte de Versailles Expo Centre, where I have been a few times, normally to get my running numbers for the Paris Marathon, which is coming up. Why didn't you mention the half marathon, Paul? Well, glad you asked. I didn't mention it because I didn't take part, and I was a little bit upset, but I can only do so much in a year because, well, I'm broke. Hey! Also, I've got the Hackney Half Marathon coming up. That's in May. That's a London Borough, and it's a half marathon running. I really do need to start my training on that one. And I think I said previously, there won't be any more on that coming up, so that's great. But anyway, the WBC starts on the 30th of March up until the 31st of March at the Porte de Versailles Expo Centre. Nice little area, actually. Just pop in different little expos if you want to, or the area itself is quite nice and delicate around there. I've said the 16th. You know what? I've got a feeling it might not be. No, it isn't. It's in the 15th. I knew I was getting it wrong. No idea why I kept saying the 16th, but it's in the 15th. But opposite is a little place that I went to with Nev, called, I believe it was Du Pont Versailles on the Rue de Vaugirard and Boulevard Victor. It's a nice little bistro, restaurant, cafe kind of place where we just sat outside, and that's where I feel for the first time I actually people watched properly in Paris. And that was nice. We were early for the marathon. Oh, that's when we got like the €160 dried fruit. Oh, be careful with those. You go, oh, I'll have a bit of that, a bit of this, a bit of the other. And it's dry fruit. And all of a sudden, those prices, they really whack up. It's like, no. I'm not paying that much for a bit of dry banana, thank you, Gov. So you put it back and that's it. Then they realise that, they were trying to scam you. Have some of this, try some of that. And they just load up the bags. I say scam, that's a little bit, yeah, I suppose it is kind of accurate. But anyway, not to worry for that. So that's the WBC at the Porte de Versailles, 30th to the 31st. What also happening just before then, because we're talking about meat, why can't we talk about cheese? You have the meat and cheese balls, Charcuterie Fromagerie. March the 27th, created in 2001, is National Cheese Day in France. Journée Nationale du Fromage. And that's great. It's to help celebrate, promote French raw milk cheeses, as well as sustainable quality products. So grab yourself a plate of cheese. I don't know. I'm not a cheese fan. I'm really not. I'll tell you what, I do like cheese. I like cheese on my croque monsieur. Now, I've come up with a few variations. I know we're sort of meant to use different types of, or specific types of cheese, and I don't. But moving around with this whole cheese and Ideal Home exhibition, I bought Jasper a little toasty box. It's a microwavable toasty maker. You put your bread and your ingredients in. It's metal, but a different kind of metal, like an alloy. Silicone on the outside. Whack it in for 2.5, 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, depending on what you're cooking. And boom, out comes a scratchy bit of bread. I don't know if I'll put cheese on top. I've not used it yet, but Jasper's going to use it for his Nutella explosions, where he puts Nutella in a toasted sandwich, I guess is the best way of saying it, and then sprinkle cinnamon sugar on top. And talking of toasty makers and croque monsieurs, one way that I used to do my toasted cheese sandwiches before utilising the air fryer, which obviously is the best way to do it, because then you get the cheese melting nicely on top. Oh, I'm salivating now. I really did used to make a nice croque monsieur. Although I never used to call it croque monsieur. I used to call it something else, which I've forgotten. I don't remember what it was. But I used to make it croque continental or something like that. No, croque cosmopolitan. And I used different cheese from different places. And rather than using ham, I used different meat, which I'm not going to go into now. I used to love it. But I also used to make ham and cheese toasted sandwiches, or cheese and jam toasted sandwich. Now that's very unexpectedly delightful. And I used to make those in my George Foreman lean green. No, it wasn't green at all. It's silver. Still is silver. Lean, mean grilling machine. It was a George Foreman lean, mean grilling machine, or Breville, which is a trade name, like Hoover, the vacuum cleaner. Breville's a sandwich maker. Yeah, he passed away a few days back, which is a shame. I didn't know much about him, but apparently 2 times world champion, heavyweight world champion, and I believe the oldest heavyweight world champion at the age of 45 as well. He was the other boxer in the Rumble in the Jungle against Muhammad Ali back in 1974 in Zaire. And I went to one of these strange theatrical pieces heavily interactive. I loved it, really did. That's another story. But that's where I learned a lot more about the fight and George Foreman as well as Muhammad Ali. And just moving away from history back to modern times, I did mention a little while back at the Gaîté Lyrique Theatre, which is the arts venue. Since December the 10th, they have been holding hundreds of squatters within its premises. This was the place where I said they're running out of toilets and things like that. But French police raided there at dawn last week, using a little bit of tear gas to evict more than, as it says, 400 migrants. So that's the Gaîté Lyrique Theatre, which I actually originally thought they were given the option to use that as a little sort of temporary accommodation. I haven't researched this too much, so I don't know who's in the right, who's in the wrong. Using tear gas to evict people, maybe a little heavy-handed, but you don't know the resistance that was put up. You don't know what was taking place in there. So protesters were outside protesting the removal of the migrants, including many unaccompanied minors. So not very good. However, as I say, it's not all bad news. Depends how you look. The police were also involved in a 4-car pile-up, injuring 10 officers. French police tried to stop a vehicle in the 14th arrondissement. 3 police cars chased the vehicle, which dramatically, according to the Metro, smashed into a traffic light, leading to a horrific chain reaction where each of the police cars crashed into the back of the wreckage, causing a huge pile-up. I don't believe that this was sort of cartoon or action film motivated. Try not to picture it. Incredible pictures and a video show one of the police vehicles on top of the suspect vehicle, its back wheels hanging in the air over the severely damaged remains of the black car. A second police car behind had its entire front end destroyed, with a third police car rear-ending the second. All 10 officers were briefly hospitalised for minor injuries, and Paris Chief of Police Laurent Nunez said that they were discharged by early afternoon. He did praise their courage and composure, and also told reporters that visibility during the pursuit was quite poor. 3 people, aged between 19 and 30, have been detained following the crash, and 2 of them have already got police records, but no further details were provided. That reminds me, I need to catch up on that programme that I watch, and I know I was going to do that. Bear with me 2 seconds. Murder in Paris. It's really not called Murder in Paris because that's a documentary. Is it the Paris Murders? No, it's not the Paris Murders. Oh, these are all good things that I should be watching now. Astrid, Murder in Paris. That's what it's called. And I'm able to watch that on Channel 4. So that's really good. And I've seen the first series once already, I believe. And I have tried watching it again. But I get caught up in other things. I watch a Modern Family at a minute, but you don't really care. You don't really care. This, just to let you know, is also called Astrid et Raphael. There we go. If you do want to watch it, it's quite nice, quite light going, easy watching, beautifully acted out. I say that, I don't know how well French actors act. I did see Asterix a few months back. So moving on, I think I have covered the news, what's coming up, everything else. Don't forget, your clocks change. If you're in England and listening, your clocks change. If you're in France and listening, your clocks change. I don't know about other countries. I'm not really worried about them at the minute. But if your clocks change them. If not, well, don't. So that's that for now. Oh, one last bit. Don't forget as well, because these clock changes means we're coming into spring. So for those of you that have the luck and ability to travel through Paris on foot, above ground, have a look for the Sakura cherry blossoms. Yeah, cherry blossom back in town. Not like I first mentioned at the beginning of this season, where I did say about, the cherry blossom on the trees. We know it wasn't cherry blossom. It's now going to start coming out. England, Wales as well, the UK have daffodils, and Paris has cherry blossom. And I've mentioned this because it's Sakura, Japanese cherry blossom. And we were at an Italian restaurant the other day, Never myself, before she went to Paris, and I had a lovely homemade lasagna. It was gorgeous. And Nev's trying to learn Italian as much as I'm trying to learn French. And the waiter said something, and she thought he said sakura. No idea what it meant in Italian. I just know it being Japanese cherry blossom, as well as an old friend of mine. So I know little Kelly doesn't listen at this stage, but little Kelly, I'm just thinking about sakura, and that's alongside Joe and Catherine. Anyway, Rory, over to you.
Coffee Pot Conversations.
And so here we are, Thursday night, 28th November, Boulevard de Ménilmontant, just at the side of Père Lachaise. I'm looking forward to finishing my night. I am thoroughly exhausted at this point, but I'm also thinking maybe I just want to go and have a little late night jazz. So I'm going to have a walk around, just also look for boulangerie that I can use in the morning. I don't have to leave the the hotel until midnight. I don't have to leave the Ballstock hotel until midday, so I've got plenty of time in the morning just to sit, do some writing, have pain au chocolat, pain suisse, orange juice, cup of tea. So this is what I'm doing at the moment, rather than going to bed and resting and getting over the exhaustion that is coursing through my body. Obviously here we've got more stonemasons because we are where we are. There's no shortage of these along this area. And why not? It's obviously a business that needs to be thought about. But there aren't just the major cemeteries in Paris. We don't just have Père Lachaise or Montparnasse or even the one in Montmartre. There are smaller cemeteries dotted around the areas because unfortunately people donate, they need to be buried. So for those of you listening on Apple Podcasts or iTunes or however you do it via Apple, I do apologise, there is still no video because I'm not sure how to do it. So my advice is move on to YouTube. Why not? youtube.com/@coffeepotconversations. You can leave comments there, you can engage in conversation, and you'll also see my other little section there, which is what I call my blogcast. So all I'm doing is I'm just reading blog entries from my blog. Nothing spectacular. Some are long, some are not so long. They're all mediocre quality. You can actually hear that the style of writing does change over the years. I start with my first entry, Je suis l'étranger, and that was back in 2017. That was a university piece. It then starts at 2019, and then it's just carried on from there. Not any real regularity or hilarity, but there we go. Now look at this cute little dog just walking in the street. Remember, I'm 6'4". I'm carrying bags. You can see my shadow there. We are in Rue de Montlouis in the 11th. So yeah, I'm walking down the road. Cycling bins, dustbins, dog having a way up by the little lamppost. Don't forget, I'm also about 110 kilos.
Merci.
And that was where they didn't see me. Yeah. So again, if you're watching on if you're watching on Apple Podcasts, move on to either Spotify, which I know some people don't want to do, and that's not a problem, or crack onto YouTube. You're going to see more with YouTube than you will do with Apple Podcasts because it's not up there. But I will still try and narrate for the rest of the season as to what's taking place. So at the minute, I'm still walking down the road. Yeah, bet you wish you're watching on YouTube now, don't you Apple Podcasters? And it's nothing personal. I just don't know how to get the videos up there. I think it's something to do with starting up a new account. It's a whole long-winded mishmash. I'm not even going to say I'm going to look for season 4 because I don't even know what I'm doing for season 4 yet. But it does make my way around the corner past the Peruvian restaurant, Candela 2. Now, don't forget, always grab a doorway. Yeah, slow motion that was. Back in 2023, when I did the 10k Renev, we started to walk down one of the roads on the way to one of the restaurants. I think we were on our way to La Femere. And it was like, ooh, windows are open, let's have a little look in. So it's not just doorways, but it's apartment windows as well. And I know it's a kind of little bit like Tom Papery, but hey, why not? Windows open, fair game. But these apartments aren't as big as you think they are. Some of them are, but not all of them. Most of them aren't. And I still don't know if that lady felt threatened, which is why she put her phone down. Again, pickpockets, yes, they are there. But in London at the moment, especially at the moment, and this is 2025 I'm talking about, and it's been going on for ages, but people are snatching phones so much. Not just in the touristy parts, but in the residential areas as well. So to start being in any big major city, keep things hidden, keep things away, you should be safe. Now, if I was a typical East Londoner, that phone would have been snatched. I would have been bombing it down the road. Bish bash bosh, you would have had no chance. But what they're also doing is coming up on bicycles, especially the electric e-bikes. Again, this is more London, but it will branch out into the mainstream parts of Europe, I promise you that. So, just on Rue de la Roquette, and at this stage of night, I am thoroughly exhausted. I've had dinner, I just want to sit down and have a drink, but my brain is just, it's mulch. I'm walking aimlessly. I know I'm going in the opposite direction to the Bourse, to the hotel. I think at this stage, I really will start to call it a day. Just need to find a little turning point, a natural break in the street, and I'll head back. And as mentioned in a previous episode, this, just to my right, used to house a prison. There's actually another one further down the road as well. That's the bigger one. Now that was Wallace Fountain number 86 in Barbara Lambese's book Trouver la Fontaine Wallace, Trouver Paris. Find the Wallace Fountains, find Paris. It's an English and French book, which is amazing. It really is. It lists quite a large number of Wallace Fountains around Paris, and it's a really good read. It's got 21 self-guided walks, but you don't need to follow those. It's actually a nice little companion book when you do spot a Wallace Fountain. You can just have a quick read. Barbara gives a little sort of synopsis of where the fountain is and that type of thing. Obviously it's got the introduction to the book, where it talks about Sir Richard Wallace and the fountains. Interesting read really is. I saw this at the Wallace collection in London on the shelf, and so I've already got a copy handed to me by Barbara and signed in front of me from Barbara. And this was part of my November interviews back in November 2023, episodes 2.1 and 2.2. Now just a quick shout out to my mate Chloe that I used to work with. Chloe, shout out to you. I know you don't watch, I know you don't listen, but I've done it. When you get around to it, let me know you've heard it. Unless Frankie or Emily are watching / listening, in which case, tell Chloe. Cheers. It's not particularly late night in Paris. It's not particularly busy night in Paris. But you can see that there are still places open to eat. And that's great. The Parisians do tend to sort of drag dinner out a little bit later than what us Westerners, at least us East Londoners do. We prefer dinner once we're back from work, bosh, job done, then we can go to the pub and get tanked up. I'm joking. But the sooner you have dinner, the more of the evening you've got to do the rest of your bits. But Paris isn't like that. It's more of a slower vibe to the day, unless you're on a little motor scooter, in which case you're going to thrash the throttle like no one's business. So this place we're coming up to on the corner, Le Bec Salé, actually means the salty beak. And according to their website, that lovers of international or diverse cuisine will be fully satisfied at their establishment. You can discover the restaurant, Le Bec Salé, and indulge in a variety of Mauritian dishes. In summer, enjoy sunny days on a temporary terrace. Now, I did that through Google Translate, and what's weird is it says Terrasse Éphémère, which from memory was the name of the pizza place that Nev and myself went to in the 14th, L'Éphémère. So I'm not too sure what it actually meant, temporary or short-lived, but it was very nice, and it was there 6 months later when we went back with the boys for the Olympics. We didn't go there with the boys, we walked past it with the boys, but it was still the Olympics, it was still 6 months later, and it was still there. And up until 2 weeks back, it was the best pizza that I'd had in an absolute age. Unfortunately, that accolade now goes to a place in Greenwich called Japes. Their London-style Hawaiian pizza. Yep. Pizza debate. Pineapple on the pizza? Yes, please. But anyway, that was a really nice pizza. I went there in, I'd say, about 2 weeks back. Oh, go on, and if you want to debate about pineapple on the pizza, email in pineapple@anenglishmaninparis.blog, or just leave comments on whichever platform you're listening or viewing on. Now, just standing here by this cycle path zebra crossing roundabout cycle crossing junction, just on the right, it'll be magnified shortly, the Chez Papa. Now, Nev and myself, we've eaten 2 of these already. One in the 20th, which was, as the French say, c'est magnifique, or wowzers McBowzers. The 14th, found by Cimetière Montparnasse, not so good.
Well, I didn't do my regular boulangerie. Partly because I wasn't sure where the boulangerie was going to be. with a table and chairs. Secondly, I don't think you notice, up here, all around here, it's exceptionally swollen. I've got an infection on a broken tooth in the root, right up the top. And it's given me, almost like I've got the whole lip thing going on. I woke up with an exceptionally large overbite. My teeth haven't moved, but my lip has. I've had it a few weeks, and it was constantly painful. Now it's just discomfort. The main pain has gone, but the swelling vastly over that side of my face. So it's like you've been to the dentist and having to get an injection, and you can't quite feel your own lips. It's coming out. That's quite worrying. So I'll probably phone up my dentist and see if I can get an appointment for Monday/Tuesday when I get back. Kind of like an emergency, because I don't want my face exploding. Anyway, I'm just crossing the road outside Père Lachaise, and I'm going to show you a little Wallace fountain. So like I said yesterday, here's the names of the fallen heroes. But here is gorgeous, isn't it? Absolutely love them. Anyway, quick photo. And then just took a photo inside of my hand. Now we're going to head into Père Lachaise, so I will be switching the camera off just for a little while, just out of respect. I'll turn it on when I get to Eloise and Abelard. Okay, see you soon. Warning, this next section is recorded inside a cemetery. It finishes at 38 minutes. Okay, so I came in, took the first main turning on the right, and this is the view that I have. Bearing in mind, yeah, obviously it's a cemetery, yeah. I actually feel that I need to be talking softer during this section because of the calmness of the cemetery, the stillness in the air, the serenity that surrounds me. So yes, I am walking through Père Lachaise. It's Paris's largest and most famous cemetery. It opened in 1804 under Napoleon Bonaparte's rule. It's 110 acres and it's in the 20th arrondissement. It's got cobblestone paths and trees, mausoleums, graves. Generally, they're in good condition. There's over 1 million people buried in the cemetery with over 70,000 tombs. Just to let you know, for those of you watching, we are looking now at the Abelard and Heloise site, the tomb, which I'm going to come back to very shortly. Still got about 4 minutes left of this recorded section. So look at the photos, listen to the words, and I'll come back to this shortly. Now, again, for those of you not watching, I'm just walking through a different part of the cemetery, just making my way back, really, looking at the different plots, as it were. Paris's cemeteries were overcrowded by the late 18th century. Les Innocents Cemetery was famously shut down in 1780, and the remains were moved to the catacombs, and that's an entirely different story, and possibly for another episode. Napoleon declared that everyone had the right to be buried regardless of social class. It was originally unpopular because it was too far outside the city, so authorities they staged publicity stunts. They transferred Molière and La Fontaine's remains to the cemetery in 1804. Abelard and Heloise, who I will come back to, were moved in 1817 to attract more burials, and by 1830 it became the most prestigious burial ground in Paris. Now, people buried here are Oscar Wilde. His tomb, designed by Jacob Epstein, was once covered in lipstick. Well, lipstick kisses. It's now protected by glass. Marcel Proust, Honoré de Balzac, the French literature chap, and Gertrude Stein, the avant-garde writer, is buried alongside Alice B. Toklas. Also, we have Frédéric Chopin. His grave's always adorned with flowers, but apparently his heart is in Warsaw. Edith Piaf, the Little Sparrow. Now, that was a weird sight. I was expecting something huge and glamorous, but she was actually buried in a regular looking black stone. I don't know if it was granite. Very, very inconspicuous, along with her family. Jim Morrison also wasn't what I was expecting when I went. One last musician is Bizet, the composer of Carmen. Now, Carmen, when it was made into the Carmen, was by a chap called Matthew Ball. I actually used to work with his cousin Wendy a good few years back. She was a lovely lady. We also have Baron Haussmann, who is buried here, and he was obviously a big architect behind modern Paris under Napoleon III's rule. Parts of the cemetery are a lot busier than others. Some are eerily quiet. I know it's early in the morning here, but others are just full of tourists. Sir Richard Wallace also buried here. Huge, huge tomb. So I have about a minute left until this clip of Père Lachaise swaps out back onto Rue de la Roquette, and then there's talking, and then it goes quiet. At that stage, I will quite possibly talk a little bit about Abelard and Heloise, and I called her Heloise earlier. That's my English pronunciation of a French name, so apologies to those of you out there. Once we're out of the cemetery, then that's where the listeners and viewers who didn't wish to be a part of filming in a cemetery will rejoin us. So I think sort of it's a nice section for them to pick up, again with Abelard and Heloise. Fabulous historical love story. Yeah, could have been made into a soap opera, but we'll be hearing about that shortly, and the volume will return back to normal.
Okay, come with me on a journey to where we're going to go. So we're going to go to the Louvre first. So we are at Rue de la Roquette, just behind me. Père Lachaise. Now, I've done this road a few times over the last 12-16 hours. So we're just gonna, I think it's a straight, and you'll also see that I'm recording this for hyperlapse. So there's gonna be a lot of, yeah, anyway. So gonna go from Père Lachaise through, I believe, Bastille, and then we're going to slowly turn right. I think I've made it the third turning at the roundabout. Just need to know which roundabout that is. I think that's Bastille, and then take it from there. Once we get to the Louvre, going to go to Champs-Élysées. Oh, Champs-Élysées. And then from there, going to walk to Galeries Lafayette, do the infamous Christmas tree, which hopefully is up by now. Not seeing it on Instagram, but I'm actually not really on Instagram that much these days. So I'm going to remain quiet just for a little bit. And I'm going to film what you would see through the hyperlapse, which is going to be really weird because you're going to see me filming through the hyperlapse. Not to worry, we'll see how it goes and we'll take from there. Okay, There we go. See you soon. Okay, so for those of you that were with me, you know I'm going to be talking about Abelard and Eloise. For those of you joining in after the recording session at Père Lachaise Cemetery, we're going to be talking about Abelard and Eloise. They are among the most famous lovers in Parisian history. They were intellectuals, scandal makers and tragic figures whose story still captivates scholars and romantics as well. Their affair took place in the early 12th century, set against a backdrop of medieval Paris. So when the city was becoming a major centre of learning, so much so the left bank was known for the academics as well as the religious side. Their story offers plenty of angles. It could be philosophical, historical, Parisian cultural, or even the evolution of love and scandal. So, Pierre Abelard, born 1079, died 1142, was a philosopher, a theologian and logician. Not a magician, but a logician. He was one of the most brilliant minds of his time, known for his teachings on logic and for challenging church doctrine. Héloïse d'Argenteuil was born in 1100 and died 1164. She was exceptionally well-educated woman for a time. She was fluent in Latin, Greek and Hebrew, and she was renowned for her intellect and wit, which was rare, really, for women in medieval society. Now, Eloise's uncle, Fulbert, was a canon of Notre Dame. He hired Abelard to tutor her. The relationship between Abelard and Eloise quickly turned into a passionate love affair, conducted largely in secret, but unfortunately not secret enough. Eloise became pregnant and they left Paris. They married in secret, but Eloise, fearing for Abelard's reputation, denied their marriage publicly. And this enraged Fulbert, leading to one of the most infamous acts of revenge in history: Abelard's castration. Following the attack, Abelard became a monk at the Abbey of Saint-Denis, and Eloise was forced into a convent at Argenteuil, later becoming abbess of the Paraclete. Their later correspondence, a series of deeply personal and philosophical letters, is one of the great literary treasures of the medieval period. They debated theology, love, and the meaning of suffering. Eloise, in particular, questioning the role of love and whether she had truly embraced religious life. Now, there are some Parisian locations connected to the story, such as Ile de la Cité and Notre Dame, which is where Abelard taught and where Eloise's uncle was based. Also, the Abbey of Saint-Denis, where Abelard spent his monastic years. And the reason for me raising the story, Père Lachaise Cemetery. It's their alleged and supposed final resting place. The grand tomb at Père Lachaise draws romantics and scholars alike, though some historians do doubt whether their remains were ever really moved there. So, let's bring it back to today. Why do they still matter? What's so important about them? Well, their letters. They still spark debates on the nature of love, free will and the constraints of religion. Abelard's theological writings influenced later church thought. Eloise, often seen as an early feminist figure, challenged medieval expectations of women. Their story has inspired countless works of literature, opera, and even modern pop culture references. The true burial site of Abelard and Eloise is one of the great mysteries of Parisian history. While the Grand Tomb in Père Lachaise is the most famous, there is still strong doubt about whether their remains are actually there, or even if they're together at all. Abelard was originally buried at the Abbey of Saint-Marcel near Chalon-sur-Saône in Burgundy region. His body was later moved to Paraclete Abbey, which is a convent he had founded for Eloise. Now, Eloise, obviously when she died, she was laid to rest beside Abelard at Paraclete Abbey. And the legend says that she was buried in his tomb with her hands intertwined. Now, in 1817, officials claimed to have transferred their remains to Père Lachaise as part of a campaign to increase the cemetery's prestige. I'll give a recap as well as an explanation for those of you that weren't there at the time. So there was a cemetery in the heart of Paris which was called Cimetière des Innocents, and it was one of the busier cemeteries in Paris. Under a law dated from 1765, Paris wasn't allowed any more cemeteries, purely for sort of reasons of health. Disease was coming out, bodies were buried from the Black Death as well as syphilis, which I mentioned in a previous episode. And it wasn't a particularly nice time to have vast quantities of dead people laying around. So the decision was made to close cemeteries. In 1780, this Cimetière des Innocents closed. Now, under the weight of buried corpses that had been moved there from different parishes, a partition gave way and the remains of Parisians spilled into the cellar of a restaurant. Remains of these exhumed bodies that had been interred from other parishes already, as well as those already buried at the Innocents, they can now be found in the Catacombes de Paris. There are a few different stories that surround the movement of these bodies at the times that it was all taking place, and they can be found elsewhere, different podcasts, different internet pages. That's not a problem. I'll let you do your own exploring for that. I was going to say digging, but that would have just been a really bad joke. However, going back to Abelard and Eloise, there is no definitive proof that their bones made the journey from Paraclete Abbey. Some historians believe that only symbolic relics or the empty sarcophagi were moved. So if they're not at Père Lachaise, where are they? Well, they could still be at Paraclete Abbey, still lying in their original graves at the Abbey ruins. The Abbey was dismantled, but some tombs may still remain undiscovered, so difficult to know. Some people are saying that Abelard was initially buried at Saint-Marcel, and that's where they believe his bones are still laying. They don't think that his bones were fully relocated, so maybe part was, maybe part wasn't. Maybe they moved Eloise there, maybe they didn't. Because there are also some historians who speculate that the bodies were separated. Some remains at Paraclete, some at Père Lachaise, some lost entirely, some don't know. And to be honest, I don't think we're ever going to find out. So that leaves the question, are they together? The romantic view is that they lie forever side by side at Père Lachaise, fulfilling their tragic love story. The historical train of thought is that their remains are either scattered, lost, or never moved at all. And that would mean that they may never have actually been reunited. A mystical version, though, is some visitors claim to feel their presence at Père Lachaise, regardless of whether their bodies are truly there or not. So, if you ever visit the Grand Tomb in Père Lachaise, you may just be standing before an empty monument to love, loss, and myth. Now, these love letters of Abelard and Eloise, one of history's most passionate and tragic correspondences, have survived through the centuries and are now housed in multiple locations. The Vatican in Rome, they've got some of the oldest known manuscripts. It includes copies made by medieval scribes, ensuring the survival through church-controlled scholarship.
So, one thing that you tend to notice as well is on one corner they'll have somewhere to eat, and generally, I know I've said this before, on another corner they'll also have somewhere to eat. One corner.
Closer to, I was going to say home, but closer to Paris, the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, the BNF, holds medieval copies and printed editions from later centuries. And some of the earliest printed editions from the 16th to the 18th centuries are stored there. And also, just in the middle of nowhere, you'll have a gorgeous building, look. Just really doesn't, in a nice way, doesn't belong there.
Now, obviously, various manuscripts exist in private collections as well as university collections, Oxford and Cambridge being two that do have copies. And some fragments appear in monastic archives, but they were preserved by scholars and monks. The letters were first printed in the 17th century and they became famous across Europe. Modern editions exist in French, Latin and English, and they are widely available in bookstores and online. I do actually have a copy of a book. I'm going to be honest, I read the introduction, not written by them, and it just made me stop. I should have moved straight to the letters, but being a reader, I thought, well, I'll find out what it's all about. That was really silly of me. I will try and dig out that book and have a read of it at some point, although I then need to find the book first. So these letters, what's in them? Well, Eloise's passionate confessions expressing her undying love and resentment towards Abelard's fate. Abelard's philosophical reflection, but mixing love, theology as well as regret. There were also debates on love against duty, where Eloise rejected traditional marriage, arguing that love should be free and not bound by law. After Abelard's castration, their letters took a sombre spiritual tone in the post-tragedy exchanges. Now, there is some debate about whether all the letters are genuine, and some scholars argue that certain parts were edited or added later. However, the historical impact is undeniable. It influenced medieval love poetry and romantic philosophy. Now, a Penguin Classic version of the letters of Abelard and Eloise is a widely respected translation.
It's the kind of stuff I've got in my bedroom. Oh, look at that. Liv said that she wanted to get rid of the hardwood floor she's got. It's an option for you, Nev.
And because the letters were written in the 12th century, they're actually now in the public domain worldwide, which means people are free to use them, quote them and adapt them without any copyright restrictions, which is pretty cool. However, modern translations and editions may be copyrighted, so if you use a specific translation, such as the Penguin Classics, you do need to credit the translator or obtain permission if you're quoting at length. So just a quick, powerful quote from Eloise's letters. God is my witness that if Augustus, master of the whole world, thought me worthy of marriage and conferred upon me all the earth's honours, I would rather be called your mistress than his empress. And just a little something from Abelard, who said, we are bound together, not by the chains of the world, but by those of the soul. No fate, no suffering, not even death itself can sever what we have been. Ho ho. That's pretty powerful, reflecting the resignation to his fate, and yet acknowledging the enduring nature of their bond. Little something philosophical. True love is not found in the flesh, but in the meeting of minds. If our love was only passion, it would have died with our suffering. But because it was wisdom, it endures beyond fate. Now, one final abstract philosophical quote by Abelard. What is love, if not the eternal paradox, binding us in joy and making us in sorrow, and yet surviving in both? In seeking to master it, we become its servants. Woohoo! Good stuff.
You could really smell the fresh pine or fern or whatever the smell is. Well, I could smell it, even with my bad lip. That's quite nice. One thing that Paris do well when you find them, flower shops, they are overloaded with flowers. I got one of my favourite photos from walking down the Seine, and it was the flower shop. Oh, it was gorgeous colours.
Coffee Pot Conversations.
And that was episode 3.6. Just like to say thank you for sticking out another long one. I got into Abelard and Eloise not quite how I wanted to, and the presentation that I gave across wasn't how I wanted to, in terms of when I look back at old podcasts, deep dives and asides. I didn't really capture that. It was just brief annotation. So apologies if you were looking for more information on that. By all means, come ask me. I am still struggling to find my feet in the way that these are done. And for that, I can only continue to apologise. I was going to say I will do my best to settle down, which I will do, but that should also be in the coming up, settling down. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to carry on talking because now it's time for Jasper's jingle.
Coming up on Coffee Pot Conversations.
Yeah, so we've got the final 10 minutes of what was going to be the last 10 minutes of episode 3.6. So this episode I cut early short. Oh my days, I need to start that all over again. So what's going to happen is I cut this episode short by 10 minutes. That's going to be the beginning of 3.7. Yes, I've done it before, I know, and I apologise. I still don't know how I'm going to work through season 3/season 4. I'm just going to play it all by ear, which is, as we know, how I do the majority of things with this podcast. I can't find my footing yet. It's still early days, though. It's only year 2 for me. Season 3, I'm still going. That's it. I can only continue, as I said, to apologise. So sorry once more. I've got loads of material that I need to get out there. I've also got loads of knowledge, information and research that needs doing and that I want to give to you guys. And I can't find a nice way of doing it because I am caught up with so much in real life. So I'm going to stop waffling because I am hitting up towards the hour already. And that's it. So stick around, carry on watching the videos. If you've got any comments, you know what to do. That's right. Hang around for the next part and you'll know how to do it. And I will be changing the intros and outros, the walking parts, the conclusions, the call to actions. But just give me time. I've got the material, hopefully. If not, because I've not even reviewed it, I'll be going back to Paris. I'll be sorting that out properly. Who knows what's going to take place between now and then. So I'm just going to be walking out of my bush and then it's going to be over to Rory. Thanks for tuning into Coffee Pot Conversations today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode. Also, if you have a story from a past trip, a question about your next one, or something you'd just love to share, send an email to podcast@englishmaninparis.blog or message me on Instagram @EnglishmanInParisBlog, where you can follow me. Until next time, keep the coffee hot, the pot warm, and the conversation cool.
Coffee Pot Conversations.